Yeah. So, quickly going through what the center entails, we have a spectrum of the work that we carry out. So, the first part is work on image acquisition methods. So, what does image acquisition entail? Is basically where is the image coming from? So, when you are looking at medical images, you can think of X-rays, ultrasound, CT, MR, PET scans, and so on. So these are images, but they are acquired using a very specialized camera. So it is not a digital camera that you take and click a picture. It is more of a specialized camera that is imaging something inside your body without taking a cut on your body. So it is called as a non-invasive process. So you are not really being invasive, but still able to see what is going on inside your body. Now, when you are trying to see something, you can get multiple contrasts out of it. So in some cases, your fat might look white, but your muscle might look, gray, and your bone might look black. But in other cases, it could be the other way around. Like some tissues have one color and other tissues have another color. So these contrasts can be developed. So you can actually have more and more image acquisition techniques, which are basically based on signal processing, mostly in MRI. And it is all in the Fourier domain. So you have learned DSP at some point, or you're learning it right now, and you have learned what Fourier transforms are. So this is a proper application of how in Fourier domain you can change the frequency patterns and actually get a better contrast in MRI, for example. So this is all in the Fourier domain again, and it is very important to understand the DSP concepts before you enter the area of image acquisition. So that is number one. Then the second part is image processing and analysis methods. So here this is more of a computational area. So once your image is acquired, you know that it's a digital image. It is a matrix of numbers. So look at it as a matrix of numbers now. Don't look at it as a medical image or something related to biology. And then start.
Hello?
Can you mute? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so can you hear me, everybody? Okay, I
Yes,
assume. Yeah, okay, great. So, image processing and analysis methods are based on multiple factors. So, what you're trying to do is you can, number one problem that you try to solve is segmentation. So, segmentation is that you have a big tumor sitting in the brain, for example, and you want to know the volume of that tumor. So, how would you find the volume? So, the best way is to segment that tumor out automatically and then give the radiologist the volume automatically. Now, current methods, practices in radiology, what they will do is they will put a scale on the screen and try to find out the major axis and minor axis of the tumor. So this takes a lot of time, and when you have to go through a 3D image, you have to do this on every 2D slice, and it becomes very difficult. So it takes around 30-35 minutes for a radiologist to just measure the tumor. But now, if we can give him an automated way to directly come up with the volume as well as the area in every slice, then he doesn't really have to go do anything. And here is where your AI methods can really help. So this is image processing and analysis methods. Third is application to problem under consideration. So when you are trying to solve something in medical imaging, you would want to understand if there is a clinical applicability to this. Like you shouldn't be solving something which has no focus, or you create your own problems and solve it. You should be very well collaborated with clinicians around. You should understand what their needs are, what they want in terms of you know uh, quickly doing something like segmentation, or you want to know what their can how can you enhance their workflow. so that it doesn't take them too long to finish their radiology practice. At the same time, you can also work with other types of doctors. So we have another faculty in SEMI who works on bones and musculoskeletal images. So even he works with orthopedic surgeons to understand what their needs are. So if he works on dynamic imaging as well, where you can see how the ankle is moving inside the MRI scanner, and the motion will guide the orthopedic surgeon on how to operate. So these are the factors that clinicians are your main collaborators, and you make sure that you work with them. The fourth part is translation to clinic. So now once you have come up with a solution, the clinician is happy with your solution, you would want to translate it to the clinic. So you make an app out of it. For example, it could be a web-based app, or it could be a code which you can integrate with, in say, for example, the Philips scanner or the GE scanner, and then let the radiologist start using it. So that way you can get a prospective validation of what you're doing, and if your algorithm is actually working. And if it is working, then maybe you can go to a company and tell them that, hey, can you, commercialize this with some royalty, for example. So this could be your translation. Now with Anurag sir, next slide, please. So now, what is the ongoing work in SEMI? So SEMI is a pretty well-known center in India at this point. All the radiology centers in India know about SEMI. Many of the radiologists who are very good researchers work with us. So there's Dr. Gupta from Fortis Delhi who works with us on a daily basis. Then a lot of doctors from National Institute of Mental Health in NIMHANS, which is in Bangalore, they work with us. And there's one doctor from Dinanath who works with us. And there are many other collaborators, which Bhushan has. He's the other faculty. They work with him on musculoskeletal disorders. So my area of expertise is neuroimaging. So I work mainly on brain MRI, and Bhushan works mainly on musculoskeletal MRI, MRI as well as CT. So it depends on what the application is. So my area entails designing novel magnetic resonance protocols and AI-based analysis techniques. And the clinical applications are generally in neurology and brain tumors. So in neurology, we work on Parkinson's disease, essential tremors, multi-system atrophy, and PSP. So these are all Parkinsonian disorders that we work on, and we work a lot on brain tumors as well. So this is the area that we have focused. Now, in terms of translation, we have a very good collaboration with Philips. So Philips has a discovery platform that they have given us. So what is the discovery platform? It is nothing but an app store. So you create your own app using Python coding. It could be a web-based app, or it could be a Python app. And then Philips people help you to take this app to their discovery platform. So now that app is in the Philips, in the Philips, like in on Apple, it is in iOS. Then it would be on the Philips, what do you call, background, or whatever their. Just hold on a second. Sorry. So it would be in the Philips, their discovery platform. So basically, when you make such an app, what happens is that anywhere in the world, anybody who has discovery platform can use your app, and if they like it, Philips will tell you and say, hey, we would want to commercialize this. So can we do a commercialization with royalty option? So where they will give us a royalty and they will sell it. So that is one way of translation. Another way is you make your own web-based app and give it for free if you're very nice to people. And other than that, in terms of projects, we have very active collaborations with the University of Pennsylvania in Portugal and in Auburn University. And there are many more which I'll show you later. And in terms of musculoskeletal imaging, Bhushan works on AI-based algorithms for medical image analysis and synthesis. He works a lot on CT-MR conversion for musculoskeletal images because the contrast in CT is better for bones, like in X-ray. So converting it to a MR is a great idea. And collaborative work in the area of orthopedic surgery, rehabilitation, and computational anatomy is his forte. Clinical applications include knee injury, shoulder disorders, hip disorders, muscle disorders, and cerebral palsy. So that is the work that he carries out in his report. Anurag, sir, next slide. So these are just some techniques that we have developed at our center. So the first one that I'm showing here is called as diffusion tracking. So here you can track the white matter of the brain. Here what I'm showing is a track called dendritorubrothalamic tract. So what you are seeing here is that the tracks can be actually developed through mathematical modeling. So when you get the MRI doesn't look like this. It's a gray image. But through mathematical modeling, you can actually see how your white matter fibers are traveling. So this is one thing that already is being developed. But then we use the DRTT, which is the dendritorubrothalamic tract, to analyze how it actually changes in something called as essential tremors. Because the tremors are usually coming through the cerebellar area, and the cerebellum is connected through the DRTT to the main area of the brain, the cerebrum. So this is one application. Then second, you can see the shoulder scapula. So this is Bhushan's work. So he tries to find out where the muscles are actually sticking to the bone. So the areas where the bone insertion happens in the scapula is what is shown there. So these can change in your shoulder injuries, especially say for example if there's some cricketer who is using his hand continuously and while bowling, and one shoulder will show the insertions a little different than the other one, and then that will help in the surgical planning for the shoulder. Next part here he's showing is the insertion for the ligament changes in the knee. The figure below, which is yellow and red, is showing my work. It is nothing. It's a brain MRI, but it is color coded to find out where there is a free water. So free water is basically you MRI. We sensitize it to the diffusion of water, and then we try to find out where is the extra diffusion happening. So in this case, one subject I'm showing is a control, a healthy person, and another one is a Parkinson's patient. So we can see that in Parkinson's patient, in certain areas, the free water is higher compared to the controls. Then the first image on the middle is a model based on AI. It's a machine learning model where we try to predict the recurrence of the tumor. So brain tumors, especially gliomas or glioblastomas, are very, very like a wildfire type tumors. So you will have a tumor, even if you resect it, in 2 months the patient will come back with another tumor. So what we are trying to find out is that can we actually predict where it is going to recur then at the next time point? And if we can predict that, can we do a clinical trial where we apply radiation where the tumor might grow and maybe save the person, and so that he can live a little longer than what he is expected to live. So that is the idea behind this. So we have used textures of the image as features and then used a machine learning model on top of it to find out if we can predict recurrence. And in these images, you can see that the recurrence prediction is pretty accurate. The middle image, what you are seeing here, is my PhD students sitting on the MRI scanner um, outside the MRI scanner trying to scan people. So we have free access to the SHRC, that is the Symbiosis Hospital Radiology Department. And my students use that to the fullest. They go there from 5 to 7 in the evening, and they learn on what parameters should be changed, what kind of scans should be done. So this is a great learning experience because CTMR is all electronics engineering basically, and it is all DSP and DIP. So it is a very good way of learning the what MRI entails. And let me tell you this, that unfortunately in India there are no courses in MRI physics or MRI signal processing. And if you are good at this and if you learn this, there are superb job opportunities because Philips, GE, and Siemens, who makes these scanners, are always hunting for people, and they can't find people in India because there is no course that offers these things. So that is something you can certainly learn. Go to the scanner, see there what is happening. How do you change parameters? What does each parameter mean? And how is MRI actually acquiring the image? It's quite interesting. And MRI physics has gotten 4 Nobel Prizes till now. So it's a superb technique. So it's worth learning. Then the image below that I'm showing is a federated learning project that we are doing with University of Pennsylvania. So federated learning is a new way of what do you call transfer learning, but in a better fashion. So what happens here is that we don't have to share data between institutes, but the there is a one institute that we call as the aggregator institute, and the other institutes are the spokes, for example. So we are one of the spoke, and University of Pennsylvania is the aggregator. And what we do is that for the task here is what we are doing is a brain tumor segmentation task. So we learn the AI model at our end on our data, and the learned model parameters, the weights, they are taken by the Penn group, and they aggregate it from all other sites. So there are 42 sites right now. In India, we are one of the only sites, and they aggregate all this and they build a better model, because now you have learned the variability in data, because you have data from India, you have data from China, you have data from US, everywhere, and you have a lot more data, so you learn the variability better and you have a robust model. So this is called as federated learning, and federated learning platform alleviates the pain of going through exchanging data, because then when you exchange patient data, you have to go through a lot of MOUs, like understanding like a lawful legal documents and everything. So that is not required here, because you train your data on yours at your center, and then you just take the weights of the model and you pass it on to the aggregator site. So this is how federated learning works. And then on the last row, I'm showing some of Bhushan's work again. So here he has shown that the top row images are low resolution, and then the bottom row are high resolution. So he has converted the low resolution to high resolution using a generative model. The next image is of a bone statistical shape model. So how you can actually model the shape using statistical shape modeling. And finally, below here is part of my work where we look at the brain connectivity patterns. So we can find out how each area of brain is connected to every other area of brain. So you get the complete network. And now you have a network, then how do you evaluate it using graph deep learning models? So here we are using GANs and GATs and GNNs to basically analyze these graph models. So this is just to give you a glimpse of what happens in the lab. We are total 13 people right now, with 14 people, 5 PhD students, and others are research assistants and some interns. So these are some next slide. So these are some of the fundings that we have. These are all funding is basically money that is given to you by the government or some institute to carry out research, and it kind of makes the professor independent, because you don't have to ask for money to the institute. You already have money. So these are all government funded projects from government of India, and these are all my projects, and we have been doing pretty well with the funding, because we have enough money to support manpower, to support anything that we have to buy, like GPUs or anything like that. So this is how we write grants, we basically get those grants, and the government pays my students and my JRFs. So this is how the lab operates, and whatever the extra money is required, that is what is supported by Symbiosis. So the next part, sir, next slide. Sir, next slide, please. Anurag, sir, next slide. Okay. So this is anticipated funding. There are also a lot of bilateral calls from different granting institutes. So we are hoping to get a India-Portugal bilateral grant, and there are others that Bhushan has been writing in US and in UK. So these are some anticipated fundings that we are hoping to get. Sir, next slide. Anurag sir. Anurag sir, next slide please. Okay. Does anybody has any questions till then? Or maybe okay, we can do it at the end. That's fine. So in terms of research output, what we are looking here is we have been very well connected to Philips. So Philips invites us to give talks many times, and we give talks in IIT conferences. The I'm also working as a clinical liaison officer for ISB. ISB is a IEEE medical imaging conference, which is held every year somewhere in the world. So in 2022, it is going to be held in Kolkata, and I'm the clinical liaison officer. So these are all the local participating institutes for the ISB 2022 that I'm showing on the side. This is most of the institutes are IITs. Symbiosis is one of them because we are participating. Also, my students generally get the ISMRM travel grant. So, ISMRM is the International Society of Magnetic Resonance in Medicine. So, last year, 2020, all 10 of us, 10 people from my lab had a grant to travel to Australia. Unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic, nobody could go, but the grants are always there, they always get it. This year, one of my students got an exchange grant and she is going to US for 4 months. It's a $5,000-6,000 grant that she gets for exchange as an exchange student. Then we also work as editors for different journals, and Bhushan also works for different editorials, and he's also appointed as a faculty, a visiting faculty in University of Cape Town. So he has another appointment in South Africa. His main appointment is in Symbiosis. So next slide, sir. So these are the collaborations between me and Bhushan. Obviously, not all collaborations are mine. Half of them are mine, half are from Bhushan. So I work very closely with University of Pennsylvania. I am an alumni from there. I work very closely with Auburn, with a university in Mexico on a cocaine project where we are trying to analyze what brain changes we see after cocaine addiction. So these are some of the places that I collaborate with. With most of the European places are from Bhushan's collaborations, other than the University of Jyväskylä, which is in Finland. That is my collaboration. And so this is how we work. We are always in touch with all these collaborators. We know what is going on. My biggest collaborator is National Institute of Mental Health in Bangalore because they provide a lot of data to us, and they are super happy with us in general in terms of collaborations because they didn't have the AI ML medical imaging expertise because it's a hospital, and we didn't have enough data to start with because Symbiosis Hospital is new. We don't have enough patient data there. So in those terms, we complement each other very well, and we have been doing a superb job in terms of publishing for last 5 years. Next slide, sir. Anurag sir, next slide, please.
Just check it.
Yeah. So this is the team. The principal investigators, me and Bhushan are the principal investigators. We have PhD students who are full time and they are supported from our grants. We have two part-time students, Priyanka, you know already, and there's another one, Survi, who is works with Bhushan. And we have multiple research assistants. Most of them are now going to US in fall. So we have some positions. I'll talk about that in the later slide. And intern, we have one intern who is a final year BTech student. She's from PICT, but she's extremely motivated to work in neuroimaging. So, I mean, I couldn't say no to her. She was really good. So that's how I got her. And the positions available, I'll talk about it later in the later slides. So, next slide, sir, please. Yeah, so these are some testimonials that I'd asked my students to give. So Adnan is one of the very bright students that we had. Who he worked with us part time for 2 years, and currently he's working as a data analyst in the University of Pennsylvania, and he's admitted to Carnegie Mellon for computer science. So like he says that the 2 years he spent at SCMI were very transformational for him, instrumental, because your career gets shaped. You understand something in more detail about some area, and that is very important because in the 4 years of BTech, you're usually exposed to multiple aspects in engineering, but you're never learning something very focused. So if you do that, that is always helpful in your career, and this is what all of my students have observed till now. So this is you can read the slide if you have a minute, or I can show that slide later. So next slide please. सर एक slide miss कर दिया आपने. Yeah. So, opportunities at SCMI, we have research assistant positions which give you around 20K per month. So these are supported by the university, and we expect you to have a BTech complete with all subjects cleared. I usually don't care about the GPA. If the person is highly motivated to work in medical imaging and ready to put in hard work, I don't care about the GPA so much. And I would expect a proven proficiency in AI, deep learning, and Python or R coding. So that is something we really hope that you can give. So the main focus always is how much motivated you are to work in this area, and if you are motivated, can you put in all the hard work? So these are the two aspects that I really look at, and that is very important for me. The internship is also there. We sir, एक minute. Uh-huh. Internship is also there for 6 months. So BTech final year usually is better. Proven proficiency in AI, deep learning, or statistics is what we expect, and Python or R coding proficiency. Highly motivated to work in medical imaging. So for one qualified candidate, the university offers 10,000 rupees per month stipend. We would have this position open starting July 2021 mostly. And if you still want to intern, you can, but I cannot guarantee that if you will be paid. But for one position, we can. And you have the opportunity to work with international collaborators when you're doing an internship as well. Okay, so next slide, sir. Okay. So this is another opportunity that came up when I was talking to one of the collaborators. So this is in Inception Institute of AI in Dubai. So you can write it down or take a screenshot of this. So what he is expecting is a similar background of deep learning applied to medical image analysis with a duration of 6 to 12 months, and the focus areas are computer vision, medical image analysis, and NLP. These are internship opportunities. Once you get in touch with Dwarkanath, he can guide you more. And successful candidates get a stipend and accommodation in Dubai. So you can definitely look into this opportunity as well. Next, sir. Yeah, so another opportunity is a junior research fellow opportunity right now at National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. So it's a full-time position. It offers around 40,000 per month, and it's a non-taxable income. So you don't have to pay tax on it. And it's you must be GATE qualified in computer science, ENTC, electronics, or biomedical engineering, and you should have some experience with neuroimaging and AI is what is expected, and proficiency in Python or R is expected. So these are the requirements for the junior research fellow position. Next slide, sir. Yeah, so with this, I would like to thank you to listen for listening to me for half an hour. And this is just again some glimpses of what we do. This is some bone modeling and some brain MRI analysis that we have shown here. So obviously, although the main focus is medical image analysis, AI and deep learning are an integral part of our work, and we can't live without it because these are the most used techniques for analysis. So this is what I wanted to tell you, because I know many students are more focused on AI, but our focus is, although is medical imaging, AI is an integral part, as I said. So you would want to have a good expertise at AI to work with us or to learn new stuff. So that is it.